I'm here at TechEd EMEA 2010 with Michael Niehaus. He's the architect on MDT, is that right?
Yes.
So MDT is a tool that helps us understand white tools, am I correct?
Right, yeah. You had to take all of the individual tools that are in Windows AIK and other separate tools and try to wrap them together into something that just kind of works without you having to figure out each one of those tools individually. It can be kind of challenging, so we just try to make it as simple as we can.
Yeah. So what I seen is in MDT you create a deployment share and you get a lot of XML files in there, a lot of config files. Is it open? Is MDT an open application that other people can put their own scripts in and on?
Sure. As we try to break the tasks, the deployment into a bunch of tasks in a task sequence, and then you can edit that task sequence to take out our steps, add your own steps, customize what we do. So people have done lots of creative things with MDT to just make it do that extra piece that's required in their environment. As we try to make the first and maybe 80% of it pretty easy, and then the last 20% is going to be adjusting it for your specific needs.
So what is changed over the years when it comes to Windows deployment? For example, in Windows XP we had this file by file copy action, and now all of a sudden we are dealing with WIN files.
Yeah, certainly.
Images.
With Windows Vista and now into Windows 7, everything's moved to images. So you can't do a Windows deployment without doing images anymore. So that whole debate about should I do images, should I do source files, it just kind of disappeared overnight, which is great because the images are nice and compressed and easy to transport around. So they work really well.
And how come that this install.wim image that we have on the Windows 7 DVD, how come that it works on every PC? Is there something different with the hardware?
They changed some things in the OS to make it support any HAL type that's out there, to make it support additional mass storage drivers. You can inject whatever driver you want at any time, online, offline. So they made some architectural improvements that certainly help out in Windows. We've also then tried to simplify just the whole MDT process, which started out a long time ago with BDD 1.0, and at that point it was just a bunch of batch files that would tell you how to do an unattended install of XP, how to sysprep it, how to deploy then the resulting image. But it's come a long way since then to use the deployment workbench, populate the deployment shares, add your OS's, apps, patches, and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely come a long way in the last, at least the last 6 years that I've been working on it. So it's been a long time.
Yeah. And nowadays, actually, if you look a little bit further on these image files, nowadays people are deploying XP and Windows 7.
Right.
Where I'm from, the Netherlands, a lot of companies skip Windows Vista for one or other reason. And is MDT capable of deploying XP machines in images? Can we use that too?
You can either do the typical unattended install of XP over and over again, but it takes a long time to do that, so it's a lot better to sysprep it, then capture it as a WIM file and deploy it almost like you would deploy Vista or Windows 7. So if you try to do it with MDT, it's almost hard to tell the difference between when you're deploying XP versus Vista versus Windows 7 because we run the same steps, the same task sequences. The whole end-to-end process looks the same. It's just some of the underlying tools that are being used are different, but we handle all that so that if you're using XP today, using MDT today to deploy XP, when you move to Windows 7, you really don't notice a difference. It just works again.
And if you deploy Windows, you can do this in different scenarios, right? You can do an in-place upgrade,
right?
In some cases, and you can do a side-by-side migration. So there are a lot of differences there. What do you think is the best way to go, or what is the easiest way to go for people?
Most enterprises will do one of two things. They'll either refresh the OS that's running on their existing hardware, so back up the user state, install a new OS, put all the user state and apps back, and go with basically a clean system, but with everything carried forward from the old one. Or they'll do the hardware replacement. They'll deploy a new PC with a new OS and then migrate the apps and user data over to that new machine. We don't see quite as many go through and do the typical in-place upgrade where you insert the media and run through the upgrade process. It can be done, but most people take the opportunity to wipe the machine clean and get rid of all of the stuff that's built up over years on top of XP. So starting with a clean install gets you the best performance, the best operating system stability, and take it from there.
And then let's say you do the wipe and load kind of scenarios, or there's this option to boot the network from the network using Windows Deployment Services. One thing I maybe I missed it, but is there an integration between MDT and WDS?
You can certainly take the MDT boot images that we generate, as we use Windows PE throughout the process. Take one of those and import it into WDS as a boot image, so that then you can go to a PC, hit F12, boot from WDS. It loads the MDT Windows PE image and then starts to run through the typical wizards that you would see in MDT. So.
And then compared to SCCM, for example, MDT is great, and a great set of tools that allow you to do really close to zero-touch deployments. Right? I even heard about people that are able to do zero-touch deployments with MDT. What does SCCM bring as extra on top of MDT? Because there's integration for MDT and SCCM. So what is the difference there?
You've kind of got the two scenarios. You have MDT Light Touch, which is low infrastructure. You just need to have a file share somewhere in a Windows box to administer it, and you put all your files onto the network. But then to actually do the deployment, someone has to go from machine to machine and kick off the process. They might automate the wizard so that you can get it down to as few questions as possible, or even zero if you wanted to completely automate that. But still, someone has to initiate the process on each machine. With Configuration Manager, the big benefit is that you can do all of that centrally. So you create your task sequences, your boot images, you distribute those out with Config Manager to every site in your organization. And now you can just do a single task sequence advertisement out to hundreds of machines and say, deploy all of these tonight. You never had to leave your desk. And more importantly, as it's running, it feeds that status information back to the Config Manager server, so you can just watch the report and it will show you these 200 machines finished successfully, the next 5 are still running, there's a few that had errors, I need to dispatch someone to check out the machines that failed. So it's all about scale and trying to ramp up to doing anywhere from 200 to 2,000 machines in a night. It's just a question of how much can your help desk handle the questions coming in when the people come in the next day and ask about, well, how do I use this new Windows 7 feature, or how do I use the new version of Office? So most people don't go above about 500 machines a night, but with Config Manager it becomes more of an infrastructure limitation and a help desk limitation than a numbers game alone.
Yeah. And then there's this question in MDT, if you right-click the deployment share, you have this option to go over to this ini files. There's two custom settings.ini and the bootstrap.ini.
Right.
How are they related? Always, when I look into this console, I always see what's going on there.
Yeah, both of the files contain rules for MDT to process to try to automate and answer questions about what's going on during the deployment. The bootstrap file is for really the bare metal part of the process. It is processed in a refresh as well, but generally what you would put in there is, how do I get home? So what's the path to the deployment share, so that if I did that boot from WDS, how do I know what deployment share to connect to?
And with which credentials maybe?
And you can put the credentials in there, you can put other things in there, but because it's embedded into the boot image, you're not going to put a whole lot in there, because anytime you change the file, you have to update the boot image. But you put a few things in there to make that network connection, and then put everything else in custom settings, which gets read off of the network, so it's a lot easier to update. The same basic process works with Config Manager as well, so we just take those files, put them into a package, and have Config Manager distribute them. But it's really just designed to make deployments easier and more dynamic. So rather than trying to put together a big script that says, if this, then that, if this, then that, we can just define the rules to say, what location are you at? Well, here's what you want to do there. What computer are you on? What make or model? Do this. So trying to do it as flexibly as possible, so you can have one task sequence, one image, and still
works.
Get what you want on each machine.
So let's go back to this custom settings INI file, for example. There's a lot of lines that you can add to the file, so it will skip questions.
Yep.
Is it possible to even extend that list of options? Can you add more than just? When you run, a lot of people that I speak about Windows deployment, they say, okay, we have this list of, there's this Michael Niehaus guy has a list of blogs on Windows deployment, and we just copied the ini file contents to our own environment, and that's it. But is there any other resource that we can go to even extend this file with stuff that we never read about?
Yeah, you can certainly add your own variables and set up the rules then to set those values. There's really two parts to it. One is defining the variable and telling MDT to go looking for a value to populate that, but then you have to have something on the other side to do something with it. So, okay, you set a variable that maybe is the location of the machine. Well, are you going to have a script in the task sequence that's looking at that? Because it can see that value and then it can make decisions based on it as well. So first you kind of have to figure out, well, what do I need during the deployment? Then how can I define that? Where can I get it from? And then you can tell MDT to try to gather it. Maybe that's talking to a SQL database, maybe it's calling a web service, maybe it's another wizard pane that you add into the process to ask the user, where am I, or something like that. But yeah, once you can get that value, then you can feed it into the task sequence and try to do some automation based on that. So that's really kind of in that 20% customization that you have to figure out, well, what's your specific need, and
are there any
do that
resources on the internet where
customization.
you can find more information on how to add that last 20% in your environment?
We've defined a few sample scenarios in the MDT documentation, but they're kind of high-level general examples that might give you some ideas, but probably don't do exactly what you need. But there's a Deployment Guys blog that they've posted a lot of examples. I've tried to post a lot of examples on my blog as well. And my IT forum and some of the TechNet forum news groups are pretty active with people who do those types of customizations. So usually if you have a problem, you can ask and say, well, what's a good solution to that? And they'll throw all kinds of examples at you and say, well, try this, try that, see how it works. Okay. So there's a lot, actually a pretty strong community out there of people working with MDT and trying to help each other out, which is really nice because there are times that we don't have time to answer every email, every news group posting, every forum post. So the MVPs help out, and there's quite a few of them that know MDT inside and out. So it's a great resource to help out.
And the status now, we have MDT, and a few months ago, I think, Update 1 came.
Yep.
Is there anything in Update 1 that we must be aware of that adds new functionality to the product?
We had originally expected Update 1 just to be a maintenance release, just to have bug fixes for the things that have come up since the original release, but we did pick up a few features along the way. One was the new user-driven installation scenario for Config Manager. So like in Light Touch, we display a wizard at the beginning of the process to let you answer some questions. But with Config Manager, it was always zero touch, no user interaction at all. Well, people wanted wizards inside a Config Manager as well, so that's really what UDI is doing. You start running the task sequence, it displays a wizard, lets you answer the same types of questions that you would see in Light Touch, and then lets the rest of the task sequence run through.
So it's not just a balloon anymore, like a new operating system is being installed on your computer?
Right, you'll actually see the 8-pane wizard where you can say, well, what computer name, what apps do I want, what time zone am I in, the same types of general questions that you would do with Light Touch. So we added that in and provided new task sequence templates for Config Manager related to that. And we also made some enhancements to the driver import process in Deployment Workbench because of some issues we found in our discussions with the Microsoft support organization. They said, people are having trouble with bad drivers. There are drivers out there that say that they support x86 and x64, but when you really look at them, they don't. And we didn't know any better before, so if a driver said it supported x64 and it didn't, we'd deploy it to an x64 machine and it would cause problems during the deployment process. So we added in the ability to just do a deeper inspection of every driver and see, does it really support x64? And if it doesn't, then we can ignore the fact that it says it does. So it should help out with some of the challenges that people ran into around drivers. But other than those two enhancements, it's pretty much all bug fixes, just trying to take care of the common issues that people have reported over the previous months. That nothing was terribly serious, but when you get lots of these little irritations, eventually they add up. So we want to do the maintenance releases every so often to fix those.
So we can expect more updates?
I would expect to see another one at some point in the future. We know that we need to do some updates to support Configuration Manager 2012, so we'll be working on that and potentially some additional fixes along the way as well. So,
okay. Well, thank you very much for the talk.
Okay.
And well, we'll see you next year, I guess.
I hope so.
With new MDT sessions.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Hallo Nederland, welkom op TechNet.
Hi England, welcome to TechEd.
Hi United States.
السلام عليكم مرحبا بكم في TechEd 2010.
We've seen you last year.
I saw you last year too, so I think you're right.
But you had a session last year, right?
Yes.
And this year you have 2 and a security panel.
That's correct.
And one of your sessions was about authentication and passwords. What did you discuss in that session?
Well, I don't even know where to start because there are so many different implications of things you need to think about to create a secure environment when it comes to password and authentication. I mean, there are attacks today that you can actually, if you can only put a computer in the environment and make somebody connect to you, then you can become him and forward this connection to servers and stuff like that. And people don't really understand what's going on here in the security area, so I'm teaching them the attacks, the exploits, and how they can defend themselves.
And I've seen presentations from you before. You're more a demo kind of guy. You like to do demos.
Absolutely.
So, and how do they work out during a presentation like that, or are you relying on stupid people in the room?
Well, there are no stupid people in the room. Maybe a few. I don't know. Just kidding. We put a lot of energy into the demo. So I mean, it's like a freestyle session. I do everything on the keyboard. It's complex demos, but we prepare them a lot. And thankfully, I don't know why, but they never really failed me ever. So
you have good contact with the demo gods then.
Yeah, not only that. I mean, I do this for a living. I think many of these people who do demos, they get staged demos that they're going to present.
Yeah.
I'm just demonstrating what we do in our everyday job, every day, me and the team. So it's not that difficult. The only thing that is demo-wise is we have to make it something people can comprehend. Yeah. So we're working with how to present it, not really what we're going to do.
Because you always do what you do. Anyway.
Exactly, you got it.
So and people in the room, how did you respond to the things you tell them? Because you just told me if I put a computer in the network, I can be one of the employees.
Yeah,
I
by
can be them. How did you respond? Are they afraid? Is that one of the things that you like to achieve? To have people be aware?
I'd like to achieve that, but only because I think that you have to create a feeling inside people's body to make them want to react. So the strategy is make them understand the problem and then present the solution. Yeah. And the problem is that the solutions are pretty complex. There's a lot of work needed to change the environments to make them secure from these attacks. So you really need them to understand that this is something we need to think about, we need to put a lot of energy into it, but it will be necessary. Sooner or later something will happen,
Yeah. And in the future we will be moving to the cloud a little bit more and more and more.
Yeah.
So then we are in real trouble because evil people are in the cloud, right? They're not always on premise.
It's good and bad from a security perspective, because I think, for example, if you talk about Microsoft Azure, they are managing Azure better than most companies are managing their own IT environments. So in some perspectives, security will be way better. The big challenge is, since it's the cloud, you think that I can sit wherever and connect, and the client computers might be out of boundary from real good security, the connections or the wherever you're browsing, surfing from, that could be a good point of attack. But there are good things to the cloud too from a security perspective.
Okay. And then, so Microsoft, these data centers managed by Microsoft are managed on security-wise better than most of the companies you visit in your job. Your job is to show companies how good they are at security, right?
Yes, I'm part of a team, and we do a lot of security assessments, penetration testing, stuff like that. So, absolutely. I mean, I see what it looks like out there from a security perspective. I really feel I know, because I see, like, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of companies over the years, and I know for a fact that in 90% of the cases, at least, Microsoft will do a better job. Absolutely.
And then you had this second session this week. The first one was about authentication.
Yep.
What was the second one about?
The second one was about how you can work as a process to do a security assessment. So if you want to do a test, like for example, if I want to find all the weak passwords on all my 50,000 computers, how do I do it? I mean, for most IT guys, they think that, oh, this is a grand project. But you know, computing is also about automation. If you have the right tools, you can click a button and you can do an assessment on 50,000 computers. So I was giving them some tools we created, explaining how they work, did some demos on how they can implement them, and I think a few people from that audience will actually go home and use them. So I think that was an important session.
So you think people will actually be more aware about what they can do, how they can protect themselves?
Yes, and also to give them the tools so that they can actually, I want them to be able to do some testing themselves. They shouldn't have to call us to find out if they have weak passwords, for example. That's something they should be able to do themselves. So that's what I'm trying to give them. They should call us for more advanced things. So they should do the basic stuff.
So last time we spoke, you had this device with you with all kinds of USB antennas on it.
Okay.
You were very, very happy with that kind of sniffing on the network. What is the newest thing you really love when it comes to, well, trying to see the edges on security in networks? What is the newest thing you like doing at this moment?
I will not bring up any cool gadgets. I think it's actually about Azure in the cloud, like you said. It's the implications of the cloud. I like to do, with my team, reverse engineering on the cloud services and see what can a hacker break into the cloud? Can they reach through, if they rent a cloud service, can they go to the underlying layers of virtualization and control the entire platform that serves maybe hundreds and thousands of customers? And this is something we need to understand.
Yeah.
Is it possible? Is it not? How much energy does it take? What are the vendors doing to prevent it? That's where we are right now.
So you talk to vendors too? You present yourself as, hey, we can test how good you are at security? Is that something what you do? Or do you just don't tell anything and try out, and if you find something, then tell them?
They come to us, and usually when we do these tests, it's because they wanted us to, so they pay us first and then we do it.
Okay.
We do some things for fun also, but most of the times our customers will come to us, tell them we have this assumption and we want to know this, and if they do, we will give the answer to them. You know, so if somebody else does, we will give the answer to them. So I think it's the way it works.
So and just a personal question: what does your weekend look like? Are you constantly hacking your neighbors? Or are you just a nice guy in real life?
You realize we're in Germany now, and they have very strong laws on hacking. So I would never say anything about that.
Okay.
But during weekends, I am a geek, so I spend my weekends a lot of time in front of the computer. I do have a wife and kids. I give them some time also. I love my kids, but
not too much.
They are competing with the computers. They are.
Yeah, you have a big network at home?
Well, I would not
data
say
center?
not a big network, but we're running maybe 10, 15 computers in my family. Yes, we are.
And you are with 4 people?
Yes, but it's mostly for I need all my different things to be able to do what I do.
Yeah. So, will we see you next year again?
I hope so. It's up to the attendees, but absolutely, I'd love to be here.
Are there any plans for next year or for the upcoming 6 months for you to develop new tests? Or
yes, I want to present new things that they've never seen before here. So I think next time will be definitely more cloud oriented. I will run cloud security sessions and give them more of our results from research there.
And one final question. What do you think of cyber terrorism?
Cyber terrorism? Well,
is that something that we're going to expect to happen?
It's happening as we speak. I mean, we do incident response work So many times a year. It's happening. It's very seldom reaching media. Because it's not in the interest of the attacked companies to tell the world that they've been hacked.
I don't think that would be for any company.
So I think we have, and this is a fact, from every incident response job we had over the last 6 years, nobody ever contacted the police. So of every customer that was hacked who came to us, nobody called the police. So the statistics are completely wrong. This is a way bigger problem than
Why wouldn't they tell the police? Because they think media will be after that? Then?
Yes, if you're a bank and you get hacked, maybe the customers will leave them. Maybe the share, the rate of the stocks will go down. These are big questions, but in the long run, this is not a good evolution. It has to change.
Okay.
Because the police will not get the right resources unless they understand the problem is there. Stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, thank you very much. Hope to see you next year again.
I hope to see you too, man.
New cool sessions.
Yeah,
okay.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
What are you doing? Are you winning?
So how do you like Connect?
Very much. I can't say no.
Makes you tired?
Yeah, a little bit.
Is it fun?
Yes, it is very fun.
Want one of your own for home use?
Definitely, I will buy one soon.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm here with Martin Tyrion from Microsoft in Netherlands, and Martin is a user experience evangelist. And what does that mean, Martin?
It means that I talk mostly to designers and talk about user experience, how you can create a user experience based on the Microsoft platform. So how can you use our platform and tools to build rich user experiences for end users.
Okay, and which platforms are you specialized in?
I'm specialized in the Windows Presentation Foundation for Windows and Silverlight for the web and now also for the phone. And the Expression Studio products like Expression Blend is very important. So those are the main focus areas for my work.
Okay, you told us you were specialized in Silverlight.
Yeah.
I heard that there's this new HTML version, HTML5, that's really successful now.
Yeah.
What are the differences between Silverlight and HTML5?
Well, actually, it's almost the same difference as between the current version of HTML and Silverlight. HTML5 is a web standard. Well, it's still in progress of being a web standard. It has more possibilities than the previous version of HTML, but it's still HTML and JavaScript for the programming language. Silverlight is a plugin for the browser and provides more capabilities, so a richer development platform and more possibilities for within the client. And also platform independent because it also runs on Mac and Windows and within different browsers.
Or it does run on an iPad, for instance?
It does. It could run on an iPad. It currently does not run on an iPad because then it should be installable on the iPad.
Yeah,
and
that's not.
Currently that's not.
Okay. And within the new Silverlight version, what are your favorite features? What's new with the previous version, and what are you really psyched about?
Well, especially it's the completeness of the platform. So if you're building a line of business application, or if you want to build a rich media experience with video, or you want to do stuff with animations, or even create a game, the platform is so rich that everything is there. And especially with the tool supporting you, very good to make use of that. And the nice thing of it is if you know how to build your applications for the web with Silverlight, you also know how to build applications for Windows with Windows Presentation Foundation, because it has some more possibilities, but the basics are the same. And now it's also possible to build applications from Windows Phone, because that's Silverlight too. So you have a very broad spectrum of reach with the platform and tools and the skills that you're building.
Yeah, is it hard to start learning Silverlight?
It's not hard. It a bit depends on where you're coming from and also what you're focusing on within Silverlight. So if you're just focusing on the development, that's the same as with the .NET framework on Windows. So if you program in C# or VB.NET, it's the same. Only once you go to the user interface or controls and maybe animation, that can be new for a lot of people. But there are a lot of training is there on how to learn that. It might be a bit more problematic if you have different backgrounds. So if you're coming, for instance, from a Flash environment, you know how to do your animations and things like that, but you're used to a specific way how to do that in that platform.
Yeah, I experienced that because I used to build Flash websites a couple of years ago, and then I looked into Expression Studio Blend, and it looked very similar, only more features, and it seemed more easy to make an animation, but I still haven't managed to make one.
But so it's fairly easy. I've heard from training partners that they can train people in between half a day or 2 days, that they can learn their skills in this new environment, because there's animation and there's vectors and all the things you're used to. Only the way you create them is different from the other platform, because the tool is a bit different and the platform is different. But then once you've gotten the concepts, it's very easy to work with that and be creative with that platform.
Are there any, do you have any favorite websites which are built in Silverlight, use Silverlight? Which really show the variety of possibilities within Silverlight?
So there's so much in the platform, so I think it's almost, I don't know of a website that's using it all. But I like multiple websites because they're used to technology, for instance, for the video capabilities. So together with the Windows Server platform, you have very powerful video capabilities with Silverlight. You can have streaming, of course, but also smooth streaming. That means that you can deliver the most or the best video quality to the client without that the user has to choose between different qualities, because that can change because of the behavior of his machine or his bandwidth. So that's in Silverlight, and there are a lot of media sites already making use of that. So you can have very high video quality. So for instance, all the broadcasters in the Netherlands, they use Silverlight for that. And they're all now starting to look at using smooth streaming as well, so they can have more quality there. So I think that's a great use of Silverlight. But also line of business applications are written with Silverlight. So you can have a rich client, you have the ease of deployment over the web, you can reach Mac and Windows, but you have all the controls there, and your data validation and your calculation and things like that. So it's hard to choose from all the sites what's the best. They all have something special in it.
Okay, so you don't have a favorite website? Or one could go
one that I like very much. One of the nice things in Silverlight is Deep Zoom. That's a technique to have very high quality images on the web site and have a very fast access on the client. And you can even zoom into the pictures. And one of the, it's already a bit older sample, but it's of Hard Rock Cafe. When you go to memorabilia of Hard Rock Cafe, they have an implementation where you see a collection of, I think, somewhere around 1,600 items. But you can zoom into them and see really the details of a guitar or whatever. And it's all very fast and snappy. And I still think that's a very nice way of an interaction for users and using the capabilities of Silverlight.
Is there something else that you want to share with our audience that you think is really cool with the technology you are using?
Well, still, so the coolest thing I think is that it's easy to build solutions with it. Through the tools we make it very easy to start and so there's no need to focus on the real technical stuff. You can faster focus on the business problem you're solving or the thing you want to create. And then you can also use it now with Windows Phone. And when you look at Windows Phone, that's a whole new environment. And you would think, well, you have to learn new skills for that. But again, it's very easy to have very rich experience on the phone with the same skills. So I think that's very exciting. And that also shows that Silverlight is a very mature platform already. A lot of people are using it. And that has a lot of promise for the future, what's there to come in the next version of Silverlight.
And is there something you miss in the current version that you really want in it?
Well,
you hope there will be...
so it's not really about what I miss in the current version. It's more what the people out there, the developers and designers miss. And you see now that because it's already we're at version 4 now, that the feature requests we get are getting more detailed. So this is already there, but we want this bit different, or maybe that added to it. So that shows the maturity of the platform, and I don't see any real things missing. We get some demands, for instance, for encoding video and audio on the client, so that you can push things back, or for real 3D support in Silverlight. I have no idea when that will be implemented in the next version, but a lot is already there.
Seems promising.
Yes, of course.
Well, thank you for this interview.
Well,
be sure to check out the Hard Rock Cafe website to see all the availability for Silverlight. Oh, thank you, Martin. Have a great day at TechEd.
Well, you too.